Welcome back to Forge in Halo Infinite, and today I'll be showing you how to make a secret treehouse. So, as you saw, we simply run across this pallet, a lift spawns, and that takes us up. And one of the things we can do is then travel all the way back down. Now, you might be thinking, oh, that's not really special, but as you can see here, there is a cap that I cannot get in, and at the same time, although I might be able to fire up and hit there and get to the top, if this was all enclosed, then I would simply back off it. So how have I done this? Well, simply put, this pallet is a detection zone that spawns in the gravity lift and then despawns after approximately 3 seconds. This gravity lift then sends you up and you land on the platform. Now, to come back down, I have to look all the way down and travel, because if I don't, I'm then stuck and there's nothing I can do. Whereas, unfortunately, it hadn't respawned because I was stuck there, is I travel up and then look all the way down once it's spawned back in, and there it despawns, allowing me to pass straight through and then comes back again. So, how did I create this? Well, I created an object that had enabled me to put a bounding box. This is for any dynamic object, you could put a box around it. I then got the grav lift, which then goes up and meets a vent cap, which is also dynamic, but fixed, so you cannot pass through it. And then obviously a normal duct and a platform at top to build as your discretion. So let's have a look quickly at the script brain for going up. This is the wooden pallet, and it's gone to a monitor area. And that is the bounding box of that wooden pallet as we saw earlier. So now I'm saying when an object enters that area, or this area that is defined by the wooden pallet, I then spawn the grav lift, which then deletes the vent cap, which of course allows me to travel through it because the grav lift is sending me upwards. It waits 5 seconds and then spawns in the vent cap once again and deletes the gravity lift. At the same time, we also want the gravity lift to be deleted because we don't want it to start there. We want to spawn it in, which is why we've got the spawn object. So it's essentially a bit of logic working through of what is wanting to spawn and then despawn, but essentially the path goes a bit twisty like that. How do I make the boundary up on an object? So simply put, I put a pallet down, but this could be any object, and simply it's going to be dynamic. So let's just, for instance, I'm just going to spawn in a new pallet. Now, inside the object properties, it says here it's static and it fades currently. And if I go to the bottom by cheating by going all the way to the top, I can see there's nothing about boundary. If I now go make it dynamic, I can now see there is this new term called boundary being formed. And I've got two types of boundary. I've got box and I've got cylinder. I'm going to choose cylinder, and I'm going to make its radius 3. I'm going to make it top, and suddenly you can now see this pillar forming, and I can make the bottom of the box appear as well. And then I'm going to see whether it's shown upon gameplay on or off. But I'm going to turn it off, and I'm actually going to make it bigger, so there's a fairly decent chance of me hitting it. And then obviously I would move that into place, and then inside my brain node I would then reference the object. So let me just go into the brain by obviously selecting that object and going in. Add object reference, and it's done a boo-boo spawning the brain in, because that's what it does if you've got it selected. So I'm just going to delete, and there we go. So I'm just going to delete that one. Now, so this wooden pallet, I'm just going to connect to this area monitor node, and that's telling you the area monitor I want to monitor is from that node, which is coming from that boundary we set. And then that fills in all the rest by having the object enter the area to monitor and finishes the script. And we can just go into play mode, make a mad dash for the second pallet, and you see that still fills in what we wanted to do. Now, the next part of the script is this vent cap spawning only when you look down, as in to travel through. Now that you've got your secret entrance to your secret hideout, you now might want a means of escape. And for this, you simply look down the tube and you travel down, and there you go. I've now escaped and I can now play. So how do I make this escape tube, knowing that when I finish traveling up the tube, I spawn in this vent cap? And the only way through the vent cap is by looking straight downwards. Well, I'll go in and have a look at the event brain. And I'll just keep that out of the way. And so it starts very similar to before. I've got an object inside the vent cap that I'm pointing downwards, that I'll show you in a sec. And once again, that's got a boundary around that, about the size of the vent pipe. So that object is called pointer. And then once again, it's monitoring the area. And then when an object is monitoring the area, that's when something's activated. What is different is that firstly, I'm saying, is this object a player? And then the next point I'm getting it is I'm getting the object's rotation of my pointer object, which looks down the tube and is literally what we say is an arrow, and I'm pointing it downwards to indicate the direction I want to be looking for. Now, critically, I'm looking at the rotation, and it's at -90 in the y-axis. So just remember that one. So back through the thing, I'm getting that object reference, or the object notation, and that is -90. However, it's spitting out a vector. And so what I now need to do is change the vector to an ordinary number. That's why I can actually look at it, as opposed to just say, and we're choosing the Y number from that in this one. And of course, now we know it's -90. And essentially, we'll keep it there. The next part of the script is I'm getting the player aiming vector. So this is the direction your gun is pointing. And once again, we're getting that vector coordinate. And I'm saying the Z direction, which of course is whether you're looking up or down, as opposed to left, right, and crouching. I'm saying that one, and currently I'm going to print, or was printing, that number to the kill feed. That's where I can see what that number is. So when I travel up the pipe, it spits out a number here. And now when I look straight forward, or even point up and travel down the pipe, it spits out a number. So now I'm stuck. I'm just going to quickly travel out and see once again that number is spitted out. And then I'm going to say, upon matching the number of looking all the way down, minus 100, that's where the object despawns to allow me to pass through. So going back into the maths, you'll see now that this number here is minus 90. I have to add 10, or precisely minus 10, to make this result minus 100 there. Because what happens previously in the my print number, your aim value is actually printed as a decimal, which is 100th of what the angle is, which is why we get this number. We multiply it by 100, so this is 0.00. This result now brings it to the 1 dot. When you print or take the number from the get plane aiming vector and you print that to the kill feed, it gives you a number of 0.99. Big long number. So we take that number, multiply 100, so that's now minus 99 dot blah 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 blah, and then we round that number to down to the whole number. Now minus 99 rounded down is minus 100, which is the same number we're creating here. So those two numbers come in, and we compare those two numbers, and if they to each other, which is that one, and if they do equal the same as in minus 100, then we fire off this branch, which deletes the cap so you can travel through, waits a second, and then spawns the cap back in, which is this section of code. Otherwise, if the number here isn't minus 100, then, which is the false statement, nothing happens because nothing is connected to that node. Let's see this in action once again. So our first node comes in, it detects we've got over a pallet, I think now this pallet, spawns it in, we travel up, and we spit out a number. Now that we can hide that number later on, but it's good for reference. And we can see there, that's a solid object down there. Only by looking all the way down do you pass through it. And we can check that it works by once again traveling back up, wait for our thing to spawn in. We then look forwards, pop down the tunnel. The value we're getting now is 2, which isn't equal to minus 100, which is why we didn't go through. And nowhere can I jump to make me go up. So I'll just pop back out and look all the way down, and there we travelled through. If you like this and would like a copy of these two scripts so you can use in your own maps, then head down to the description where there'll be a link to the scripts in the Halo waypoint area of my files. If you did like this video, then consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you'd like more videos like this, then please consider subscribing to this channel.